I see you. What's up, Magic Fam? It's your boy Blue here. This week we are actually going to do something a little different. We're going to do a Blues budget battle brews, but instead of giving you a upgrade guide at the end, I've decided to go ahead and do a little bit of a teaching video on how to do some deck building and some of the things that go into building a nice starter deck or your first deck, because a lot of people have struggled with that in the past. So the reason why this has come about is this is actually I'm going to show you a deck that was commissioned to me by a past customer that wanted decks for himself, and he has asked me to build him the most budget I've ever had, which is a $10 nothing deck to kind of show his son how to teach him how to play Magic. I took that as an opportunity to build a deck with some parameters that he gave me, and I decided that after looking at it, it was actually a pretty good deck for $10 to show some decisions that were made and how they were made, so you guys can see how the deck building process works if you've never done one before or you're afraid to. So the parameters were obviously $10 budget, and they wanted blue-white. Now that was the only parameter I got, was just blue-white. So to take that into consideration, there are many things you can do, and blue-white does control, which is complicated, and they didn't want complicated. They wanted something fun, obviously, and easy to learn. So naturally my instincts took me to a blue-white, or Azorius, which is the tag for blue-white, spirit deck. So I'm going to show you the choices I made and why I made them from what I had available to me, and show you how to do some synergies and stuff like that. So the first thing I'm going to explain to you as I go over the creature section is a term we use in Magic called the curve, okay? The curve is a mana-based term where you have the ability to play your deck out every turn you have something to do. So the main part of it is you can play one land a turn in normal circumstances. Obviously, green has the ability to do extra in some cases, but for the most part, in the beginning, when you start playing, you're going to be able to play one land a turn, so you want to be able to play something for the amount of mana or land that you have in play for that mana. So I'll show you the curve that I've chosen to actually start teaching how deck building works. So I started off with an Eidolon of Philosophy. Now the reason for that is not only is it a spirit, but it's one to cast. It also has a nice power toughness. This is unusual for a 1 to cast to have a 1/2. Not many creatures have more than a 1/1 at 1 mana cost, okay? It has an added ability of 7, which is a lot, but remember, this is for curve purposes, and later on in the game, if you're having trouble finishing the game off, you have an ability on top of that. And his ability is to sacrifice himself for that cost, and then draw 3 cards, which can help you close out the game, possibly. The curve here is 1, 2, 3, 4, so that the first turn you can play one of these, and then a 2-drop on the second turn, a 3-drop on the third turn, and a 4-drop on the fourth turn, assuming everything's going smoothly, okay? So we start with a 1-drop, and our 2-drop is going to be a Tattered Haunter. It's 2-drop, it's got a nice power and flying, which is evasion. The downfall is it can't block creatures without flying. However, you're not worried about that. In a deck like this, you're trying to just win the game as fast as possible, because this is technically an aggro deck. There are some control elements, because blue-white naturally have control elements, but we'll go over that in a minute. I want to go back to Eidolon of Philosophy, though. It's also an enchantment creature. All that means is it's a creature, but it's also considered an enchantment. It can be searched for with spells that go find enchantments, can be destroyed by things that destroy enchantments. It's important because there's synergy in later in this deck to go with that, okay? So curve 1, Eidolon of Philosophy. The second part of the curve is Tattered Haunter. It's 2 to cast, so you have synergy there with it being a spirit as well. And a playset, obviously, of both of them. All right. This is also on curve. It's a 2 to cast, 2/1. It has Flash. Flash means it can be played at any time. You can play an instant. It also has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. And also, it gives all your other spirits Flash, meaning that they can also be played as an instant. So some synergy with all the spirits going. Every creature in here will be a spirit, and they will now, with him in play, be able to be played at any time on anybody's turn. Number 3, or the third part of the curve, is Vassal Soul. It's a 2/2 flyer for 3. The cool thing about this being on curve is it's also flexible on curve. Most things are either 2 blue, 2 white, and 1. The reason why this fits is because it's hybrid mana. Hybrid mana means that you can pay either or for each pip, and that's what each one of these symbols means. This is a pip, okay? So you can pay either 2 blue and 1, 2 white and 1, or a white and a blue and 1. That's how that mana works, in case you want to know. And it's on curve because it's a 3-drop. It's a 2/2 flyer, so it still has a pretty good power toughness. That's what the old days 3 to cast were 2/2 vanilla creatures. This one at least has flying, okay? So that's for them. Synergy starts now, okay? So this is another 3-drop. It's also a 2/2 flyer. It has, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, Put a +1/+1 counter on it. So the synergy starts now. Eidolon of Blossoms counts as an enchantment being cast. So when you cast another one later after he's in play, or it's in play, it's a spirit, it gets a +1/+1 counter. There are more things after this that I will show you that are synergistic with this card. I have 2 of them in there so that you can try to get to them faster, okay? And the part 4 of the curve, or if you have 4 lands you can play it, is Irregular Cohort. It's also a shapeshifter, meaning it has changeling. I'm sorry, it's a changeling shapeshifter. Some shapeshifters are not changeling. Keep that in mind. This one is a changeling shapeshifter. What that means, it is every creature type at all times, no matter what zone it's in. It is counting as a spirit, it's a human, it's a dinosaur, it's a frog. It's every single type out there. So it also counts as a spirit, which means that it's affected by the one that lets you cast it as an instant with flash, okay? So the curve is, it's the 4th of the curve. It's a 2/2, which doesn't sound great, but the ability after the changeling makes it worth it. So now it has also, when it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 colorless shapeshifter token with changeling. So now it ends up being 4 to cast for a 2/2 and another 2/2, so 4 power on the board. Also, all types, or all creature types. So that's the other part of the curve, is that's the 4th. I put 2 rares in this deck because, you know, my normal $20 Blues budget battle brew decks have 4. Half the price means half the rares. So this is the 2nd rare and has synergy. It also is on curve at 4, but it now has 3 power and 3 toughness. Also has flying. If you haven't noticed, there's a theme here. Most of the stuff here that matters has flying. Then it has an added ability that when it enters the battlefield, you tap a creature an opponent controls, and then that creature doesn't untap until during its controller's untap step for as long as you control dungeon geists. So it has a little bit of control factor in there, okay? And that's the creature section. Next, we're going to go into the spells. So the way that I like to do it for beginner decks is I like to do what's called the 20-20-20 split. So I like to have roughly about, and it goes up and down a little bit, 20 creatures, 20 spells, 20 lands. Now, what the rule is for that is you want to have at least a third of your deck have mana production in lands, okay? Depending on the style of deck, you go up and down. So you play 20 lands for just a normal everything deck, right? When you're playing a control deck, when it's a little bit more, you have to have land drops no matter what. You play anywhere between 22 and 26 lands. It's, you know, just because you have to have a land drop every turn. It gets a little convoluted with, you know, always having a land draw and always having a bad draw because you have lands when you don't need it, but it guarantees that land drop when you need for control. If you're playing an aggro deck, a pure aggro deck, and we're talking like goblins or white weenie, you can get away with 18 to 20 lands. It's a little risky, but you want to have more fuel than you want bad draws. So with aggro decks, you're just trying to get something down, as many as you can, and just swarm the board and win as quickly as possible, okay? So that's the difference in... I have a balanced deck here, so I went with 20 lands because I just want to show you that when you're playing, you can tell when you're playing the deck what you need to do to your lands. If you need to take 2 out because it's too aggro, do so. You know, this is all about learning how to play the game in your deck. All the Battle Brew decks I do all start with 20 lands, unless, of course, I see something that needs to be done before I send it out. Okay? So if you have to put more lands in here because it's not working because you're not getting the draws, you do so, and you take out a couple cards that are not working for you. It's all about testing your deck as you go. Anyway, so onto the spells. Blue does a lot of draw. Now, this was a $10 deck, so I couldn't give the creme de la creme of draw spells. I had to give something that showed how blue works, but I couldn't, you know, cost too much because the budget was $10. I chose Shimmer of Possibility. It's actually pretty good in certain circumstances. If it was an instant, it would actually be worth a lot more, but it's not. It's a sorcery, so you can only play it during your turn. It's 2 to cast. You look at the top 4 cards of your library and you put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. The good thing about Shimmer of Possibility and why I chose this for the budget version, and this is extreme budget, is because it lets you look at 4 cards and put anything you want instead of choosing, say, an instant or a sorcery or what have you. It lets you choose what you want for the time that you need it. So if you need something that I'm going to show you later, which I call Prison Enchants, you can go grab one of them. If you need a land, you can grab one of them. If you need a creature that's specific and it comes up in the 4, you have that option. So I put 4 of them in there. The next section that is going to be in here, so that was the only spells I put in here just so you can learn how to do casting spells and timing and stuff like that when somebody's teaching you. The rest are going to be prison enchants in different forms. And what I mean by prison enchants, they are enchantments that are R's. R's are attached to a creature. When something that's no longer whatever this line here is for the R, so this one says enchant creature. If it's no longer a creature at some point, it has the ability to fall off of it. So keep that in mind when you're playing. This one is a 2 to cast enchantment. Remember the synergy I was talking about earlier. So Eidolon of Philosophy is an enchantment that helps you when you're using Blessed Spirits, okay? These enchantments also help you because they're enchantments that put counters on the Blessed Spirits. So Prison just means that it does something to the creature. It makes it either unusable in some ways or makes it smaller than it used to be or takes away abilities. They all have different ways of being a prison enchant, which basically locks them down from being usable. This one turns the enchanted creature into a 1/1 frog with no abilities, okay? Abilities can be earned later by enchantments or something like that, or they don't, this just makes the base creature a 1/1 frog with no abilities. So if you put it on somebody's, let's choose something here, Vassal Soul. If they have a Vassal Soul out, you put it on there, it makes it a 1/1 non-flying frog, okay? Anything that you do after that, or any enchantments on it, or equipment on it, is not affected by these cards, okay? So that's the first one. Thought it was kind of cool to do that. I wanted to use that anyway. Claustrophobia, a different kind of prison enchantment. It's 3 to cast. It enchants a creature. Most likely these are going to be putting on your opponent's creatures. You still own the card. You still control the card. It's just enchanting an opponent's creature. And then it taps the creature, and then that creature can't be untapped during its controller's untap step. It helps make it so that it can't block, it can't attack, it can't activate abilities, all that stuff. Now, realize these types of enchantments can have their effect nullified with something that untaps stuff, but still, when they tap it again, it will still be locked down, okay? Reprobation, another one. So again, it's an enchant creature. It's 2 to cast. It gives, it makes the creature it enchants a 0/1 coward with no abilities. It's very similar to the Frogify, except for now it's an 0/1, so it has no power, and it's now a white one, is it? Coward creature. It doesn't change the color. Okay, so it's still whatever color it was. It loses all of its other types, so no longer whatever the creature type was, it's now a coward with a base power and toughness 0/1, okay? And Pacifism is the quintessential white prison card. So it's a 2 to cast enchantment. Again, it's another enchant creature, Aura. And when you cast it, it helps your spirit that gains +1/+1 counters when you cast enchantments. And it makes it so the creature can't attack or block. It can still tap to do abilities. There are other enchantments out there that take that away. However, the hope is that you use the Frogify and the Reprobation for those creatures, and anything that doesn't have a tap ability, you just put these on, okay? And then I explained that I have 20 lands in here, and I've told you the up and down ratios. If you find that you need more land, you put them in. If you need less, which I don't think in this deck you will. So I started with 4 of Tranquil Cove. This is your foray into learning what dual lands are and what they do. There are many types of dual lands. There are ones that come into play tap. There are ones that don't. They're very expensive. For budget decks, I like to use these to help people learn what they do. There are some that have land types on them, which are way more impressive and more expensive because they can be fetched, which is another term that I will teach you about if you want to know, but that's in a different video. So I got 4 of these in here because these come into play tapped, but they also, excuse me, they also add a life to you, and then they tap to add either white or blue. I want to explain one thing I've been noticing in a lot of the beginner chat, because I am a mod at the Magic the Gathering beginners group on Facebook. One question that gets asked a lot that I see: when something says to add mana, what that means is the land itself will add mana to your mana pool until at the end of that phase, okay? This does not mean to go fetch for a plains or an island or another land. Nothing in the game does that from this tapping ability. This means just to add this color to your mana pool, which is a fictitious, fake little thing you set to the side that adds, it just goes away when you use it, or it goes away at the end of a phase. It's not a physical thing. You just have to remember how much mana you had added to your mana pool if that applies, okay? So keep that in mind. So 4 of those are in there because you can only have up to 4 of any kind. I try to follow the rules as much as possible. These decks are meant for kitchen table play, not meant for tournament play. These are great for teaching people how to play, having fun with your friends at the kitchen table. I have a lot of decks that are so equal to each other that it's just fun to play. So I got 4 of them in there, and then I've got the rest as islands and plains. I've got 8 of each, making 20 lands. So the whole point of this deck is to just teach somebody how to play, especially this one. This one's only a $10 deck, and while it has some good things to it, like the synergy of enchantments and the Blessed Spirits, it's not like a tournament level deck. This is literally for fun, teaching or being taught how to play this game correctly. And hopefully some of the stuff I have described to you will help you to learn how to play the game. If not, and you need more instruction, I have a couple ways that you can go ahead and kind of contact me if you want some more help. It's what I do. This is my passion. So the first way is you can go onto my Facebook page. I have my contact information up here. You should be able to see what my symbol looks like. It's just Bluebears Games on Facebook. You can see it plain as day what my symbol looks like, and you should be able to find me. The other way is you can email me if you really need to talk to me privately, it's bluebearsgames@gmail.com. You can leave a comment in the section below if you want me to contact you in some way, shape, or form, giving me your contact information. But now I have a new way. The beginners group on Facebook is actually a great resource for learning how to play or getting answers that you need. We have a couple of people that are really good at rules. We even have a couple of judges that will give you the correct answer. I am no longer a judge, but I still understand how the rules are. So while the answers I give you are usually correct, I miss a couple steps sometimes. So we do have judges there to give you the answers. I implore you to join that group if you would like to. It's a great way to get to know the community, and it's a safe haven, actually. Let me explain that. We don't allow people to be nasty to other people. If you have a question, we get it answered. There's no dumb questions. Only dumb people who want to ruin other people's fun. So that's a couple ways you can get a hold of me, or you can actually join the group, and it's a great resource for you. So hopefully you got something out of this. If you didn't, again, let me know what you need to know, and we'll get it answered. That's my time for the week. I want to thank you for watching. Remember, like the video. This is more instructional than it was anything else, but it's still a Blues Budget Battle Brew. Share the video out to anybody who might be looking to learn how to play a little bit more with some instruction. Somebody who wants to build a spirits deck that's a very, very beginner one. Or somebody, I mean, this deck, usually I do these for sale. This one's already sold and actually gave me the opportunity to sell, to make a instructional video. So unfortunately, that's out of the picture. If you wanted decks like this, I can still build another one. Otherwise, you know, whatever. And then also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That would really help me out. I'm trying to get to my 4,000 hours watched and my 1,000 subscribers. I'd like to see if I can't get them to pay me a little bit for all my time. I've got a lot of videos up there. I do a lot of deck build strategy videos, so to show you how I do things, I go over every card and why I've chosen that, because I have a different way of thinking on this game when it comes to my deck building. You know, everybody else is just go, 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 you know, the most powerful things. I have things where I'm trying to make it fun. So if you want to see some deck builds that are fun, I have budget commander decks, I have non-budget commander decks, and I mean really non-budget, and I have a lot of kitchen table, you know, 60 card decks that are just pure fun. So subscribe to the channel. It would, you know, I promise you won't be disappointed. Other than that, that's my time. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. I will see you all next week.